Hello everyone, this is Ravis Key. I'm just giving you a quick and dirty mole conversion update. This is an online for high school students and we're going to do some conversions. There's 6 different type of mole conversions for my students. I do hope that you've already done the molar mass, the front of that worksheet, and also I hope you followed the link to watch the song, the video of the mole song. So that's very informative and also very entertaining. So hopefully you've done those 2 things and you're ready to get into some conversions. So without further ado, we'll jump right in. The first type we're going to do is going to be called a gram mole conversion. I'm going to abbreviate mole, M-O-L, just leaving off the E. And we're going to start with something like 94 grams of BeF2, beryllium fluoride. And we're going to convert that to moles. Question mark moles. So we're going to once again start with our factor label. Do you remember that? We learned that way back earlier in August. So we'll start off with, go with what we're given. We're given 94 grams. So we'll put 94 grams of BeF2. Now what has to go on the bottom? We know that has to be grams of BeF2. Now, one thing to remember from molar mass, remember it was in grams. And boys and girls, say this with me. When you see the G, go to the PT. PT stands for, of course, our very own periodic table. So we see the G, we go to the PT, we look those 2 items up, and that adds up to be 9 plus 2 times 19 is 47. I'm going to round to make it a lot easier for us, since these are just some very easy examples. So calculate that out. 94 divided by 47 simply gives you 2 moles of BeF2. That's all you do for that type. So let's try our next type. What if we're going from moles to grams? So moles to grams. This time we'll try to convert 4 moles of sodium hydroxide. And we're going to go to grams. I should put a question mark there. So how many grams do you have in 4 moles of sodium hydroxide? Once again, we'll start with what we're given, 4 moles of NaOH. And we know what has to go on the bottom? You're right, moles. So 1 mole of anything equals its molar mass. 23, 16, and 1 gives you 40. When you multiply 40 times 4 gives you 160 grams of sodium hydroxide. It would be better if we wrote sodium hydroxide everywhere so we don't get lost and don't know and forget what we've got. So we got sodium hydroxide. Notice the moles do what? Cancel. You're left with grams. So those are the first 2. Let's continue on. What about going from moles to atoms? So in this example, we're going from moles to atoms. Remember the song? 6 times 10 to the 23rd. Yes, that's 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd atoms is 1 mole. So let's look at how we're going to do that when we convert. Let's just use 3 moles of zinc chloride going to atoms. So once again, starting off with 3 moles of zinc chloride. And we know that moles have to go on the bottom. And 1 mole of zinc chloride equals 6 times 10, or 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd atoms of zinc chloride. When we multiply this out, now boys and girls, please remember to type this correctly in the type of calculator we had in the classroom. You're going to type in 6.02 EE 23 times 3. So make sure when you're typing this in, you get, and I'm going to round this to 2 significant figures, 1.8 times 10 to the 24th atoms. And I'm going to put zinc chloride on the bottom. Go back and make that pretty as well. Okay, so we've now done 3 different types of problems. We'll just continue on. We're going to number 4. This one is going to be atoms to moles. And we'll just start with 2.4 times 10 to the 24th moles of sodium hydroxide. And we're going to take that all the way to atoms of sodium hydroxide. Okay. So there we go. How do you think we'll start? Just like we have every other time. We'll go with the number at our starting location. And that's 2.4 times 10 to the 24th. I'm sorry. That should be atoms. That's a really big number. And we're going to moles. Sorry about that. Give you a second to make sure you got that right. The last one was moles to atoms. This one's atoms to moles. Okay, now that we made that correction, atoms of sodium hydroxide. There we go. Students always try to go to the periodic table here, but I always ask them, did you see the G? And they say no. Then we should just go with that magical number from the song, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. So we'll do that to atoms, and that equals 1 mole of NaOH. Because there's that many atoms of NaOH. So atoms cancel out. You'll do the math, and that's simply 4 moles of sodium hydroxide. Okay, give you a second to write that down. We have 2 types left, and you'll have all 6 types. Okay, let's start here with number 5. We're going from grams to atoms. Grams to atoms. Now, everything else has been a 2-step process. This next one is what I would call a 3-step process. So hang on, let's try to do this. We're going to make it a little simpler. We're just going to use a single element. So we're going to go from 266 grams of cesium, just CS, one of the alkali metals there in the first column, element number 55. So we're going to go from that number of grams of cesium to atoms. So here we go. We start our factor label. When you see the G, where do you go? The PT. And when you look that up and you round it, we get 133 grams of CS. And that makes the math really easy here in a second. And of course, grams to moles. Are we done? No, we're going to atoms. But from the previous problem, we remember that 1 mole of anything equals that magic number again, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Okay, so that would just give us a final answer of 1.2 times 10 to the 24th atoms of cesium. Last but not least, what about atoms to grams? So this one is our last type, atoms to grams. So we'll start off with a really big number. We'll have copper 2 sulfate. We'll start with 2.4 times 10 to the 22nd atoms. And we'll find out how many grams that is. So there's our problem set up. Let's see if we can work it. 2.4 times 10 to the 22nd. That's a lot of atoms. And what is that of? Copper 2 sulfate. I should have gave you that up in the problem. There we go. So here we go. Atoms has to go on the bottom. 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd atoms of CuSO4. And that equals 1 mole of CuSO4. If you don't know, copper 2 sulfate is kind of a blue powder or blue crystal, depending on the type of solid you have. Next, we know that 1 mole of anything equals its molar mass. Now, if you do the math exactly, I think it's 159.55. That's a pretty good estimate there, 159.5. And when you just round this to 2 sig figs at the end, you get for your final answer is just simply 6.4. Try to raise that up some, keep the camera from shaking. 6.4 grams of CuSO4 would be your final answer. Now let's talk about how I got that answer. I said 2.4 EE22 times 159.5 divided by 6.02 EE23. All right, make sure you type that in and get those answers and you'll be ready to go. The last part of your assignment for the week is simply to do these gram mole atom conversions. So make sure you have all of these done. There's 20 of those that hopefully you'll get done in about 15-20 minutes. Thank you, and we'll hopefully see you soon. Coach Keith, bye.